Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Wolverine Live that we do weekly at this time on Tuesdays. And I'm John Borton. This is Tom Crawford. You know him well. He works on television on Press Pass fame with Jack Ebling and a cast of others. And also, he has his own podcasting network, the Crawford Podcasting Network, and a Michigan grad, always attuned to everything maize and blue. Tom, welcome back to the podcast.
Well, it's great to be here. I just got back from a dog walk, and the wind's blowing out of the north about 18 miles an hour. It's about 60 degrees. I mean, I'm ready for football.
I know what you're
Let's rock and roll, baby.
A little nip in the air. It feels like late September.
Yes, I'm digging it. No, I'm not going to wish away summer, but got a good feel to it, JB. A really, really good feel right now.
Oh, and you should have, because certainly Michigan has put itself in position to have just an incredible year. We've talked about that, the offense, the defense, the coaching, the matchups. We've talked about rivalries for the last 3 weeks, key matchups for Michigan. But tonight, we're going to take a little look forward, because there was some big news in the Big Ten. We already knew some of this in terms of what's going to happen in 2024. You're talking about going to a 12-team playoff. You're talking about a Big Ten that's adding UCLA and USC. But now we have found out some more intel on the fact that the Big Ten has decided to go with no divisions. I mean, it's going to be wide open, top 2 teams playing for the Big Ten championship at the end. And also, we know the protected matchups. We're going to be talking about those. But just, Tom Crawford, your initial thoughts as you heard all these changes rolling out.
Well, I mean, was there one other thing that, and check me on this, or, correct me if I'm wrong, is there not 10 now conference games for the Big Ten?
No, I believe they're holding it at 9.
Oh, they're holding it at 9. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
At 9. Okay. So they still got three non-conference. Okay. I knew this was coming, the non-division thing. All one division, all the other conferences have been doing it, or Big 12, and I think it's trending in that direction. I kind of like it. I don't like the idea that the Big Ten East is the battle, and that survivor of that should be able to waltz through in that Big Ten championship game in Indy. I mean, it's kind of lopsided. I don't like that. I like that setup. I like a lot of this stuff. Okay. Maybe even though I'm a traditionalist in some regards in college football, the 6 decades I've followed it, I do like some of this fresh stuff, if you will, including the fact USC and UCLA are in the Big Ten. I'm all about this thing, and I want Oregon and Washington to join it. I mean, this is the way college football is going. It's the footprint is America, and I know money pushes it. I'm bullish on the NIL. I'm bullish on equity building by the University of Michigan and the NIL monies. The transfer portal, I'm tolerating. I'm just adjusting. And I like, went back to the Big Ten schedule, the protected rivalries. I like the ones that were protected. It was glaring to me, though, that Penn State is not protecting anybody. They just want to go a la carte, right?
Yeah.
The hell with rivalries, right? Grand trophy or nothing.
Talk about a get out of jail free card, and we're going to talk more about this. But Penn State has got to be feeling like, man, we caught a massive break here, because no more Michigan every year, no more Ohio State every year, and that 1-2 punch has kept them out of the Big Ten championship game. There's no question about it. And so if you're Penn State, and we'll talk about this, but you've got to feel like, man, we have to like that to get away from that sort of thing. But protected games, for Michigan, obviously Ohio State, you have to have that one. You also have Michigan State. Honestly, I could have done without that one. If they'd have dropped that one, it wouldn't have hurt my feelings at all, because as ugly as things have gotten in this series, with Ohio State, it's always a fierce rivalry. but the ugliness just hasn't been there. There's more of a degree of respect between those two schools. But quickly to go through the other ones, UCLA, USC, that makes all kinds of sense. The crazy one is Iowa having 3 protected opponents.
Yeah.
Minnesota and Iowa or Nebraska rather, and Wisconsin. All 3 that are protected rivalries for the Hawkeyes. You got Indiana, Purdue, which of course makes perfect sense. Illinois, Iowa, and Illinois, Purdue. Sure, location, location, location. Same with Maryland, Rutgers. But to me, there's no question. Penn State is the one that really jumps out. Anything else jump out to you before we talk about perceived winners and losers in this situation?
Yeah, I'm gonna beg to differ with you, and I can guess Ballas feels the same way about Michigan State that you just voiced. And I was right with you two on this thing a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm liking this trend of Michigan State as in going down and Michigan going up. And I like to kick their ass for the next 3 or 4 years. And why do we come on now? You're missing an opportunity right now. Come on. The way this thing is going, they are tied into Mel Tucker. They are locked into Mel Tucker. And yeah, they got a $78 million edition out there that I walked through the other day. But I'm sorry. Michigan State right now, I like playing them. And, let's start making up for a little 2013, 2014, 2010, 2011. A little makeup time, a little payback time is due. So I'm cool with that. But, back to what you said about Iowa, John, with the 3 rivalries. I wish Michigan had 3 rivalries. And the other one's Minnesota, because when I was first in my family, multi-generation college football fans and Michigan grads and stuff, I learned a lot of history, especially from my mom, who was in school back when Minnesota was like really, really good. I mean, it was like Minnesota and Michigan. That was the Ohio State game, and all the history about that rivalry. And you talk about Iowa having these rivalries because they have all these traveling trophies. Well, my God, the Little Brown Jug was the first. I mean, that's the most famous of the traveling jug. I wouldn't mind of having 3 for Michigan, Minnesota, Michigan State for the reasons I just cited, and then Ohio State. That's kind of the way my feelings on that.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I completely understand what you're talking about with Michigan State, and don't disagree. I don't disagree with that at all. My thing was, had they dropped that, it wouldn't have hurt my feelings all that much in the big picture, just because I think that rivalry as culminating in an assault. Let's face it, in the Michigan tunnel on Michigan players. Is just there's no place for that.
I don't think it's going to happen. I truly think that's not going to happen again. So that's the way I look at that thing. And for the other reasons I cited, and it's like you want to have it a Cold War, so we just hate each other, and I mean, might as well play them, and got to play them at basketball, and they might have the upper hand on Michigan in basketball. So let's make sure we utilize our upper hand in football.
I hear you. And like I said, this is not a stance where, they really blew it, because the reasons you cite, there are Michigan fans listening to this podcast that are saying, yeah, get them, Tom, because that's exactly it. They're going down. I mean, I just, matter of fact, picked, we do our staff predictions, and I won't give much away in the football preview, but there's the team that we were just talking about. We were asked to pick Big Ten team on the decline, and you might understand who I slotted in that space. You'll find out soon enough, but it's not hard to figure out.
Yeah.
Tell me about your perceived biggest winner in this alignment, not only because of no divisions, but also because of the fact that we know the protected rivalries now. Who comes away feeling the best about themselves?
Well, I mean, when I look at the big winner, I guess I'm gonna go with the easiest path. I mean, for a certain team, I went through the schedules. And I figure who's got their. I mean, everybody's got their liabilities or vulnerabilities, and the a little. Oh yeah, that's a winnable game kind of deal. But I think when I looked at, I think it was Indiana's schedule. They as far as I think it's 24. They got Penn State at home, but they don't play Michigan. They don't play Ohio State. They got Michigan State, Nebraska, Northwestern, Wisconsin on the road. I mean, that if Indiana would get its crap together, and I think that 24 schedule pretty plausible for Indiana to make a decent run. But the problem is, they're kind of sputtering lately, and I don't even know if I don't have the infrastructure to get back to competitive level, JB.
Yeah, I mean they're not a historical contender for the Big Ten championship, and so that I don't take them as seriously in that spoiler role or in that slip into the Big Ten championship game role. I'll believe that when I see it. For me, it's got to be Penn State. It absolutely has
Oh,
to.
for all the reasons we talked about, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
all the reasons we talked about, because the Nittany Lions are, like I said, don't have to see Michigan and Ohio State in every single schedule that they put together, and you can almost count on one loss out of those two games for the Nittany Lions, and more often than not, it's two losses.
yeah,
Now the question becomes, they're doing this in 2-year scheduling cycles. They've got 24 and 25 scheduled, and then they'll take a look at it, they say, and then put together the next 2-year bracket of schedules. And so they're making noise that they want to have competitiveness in mind when you do this. But the fact of the matter is, uh, it doesn't matter if you dip slightly if you're a Michigan or a Penn State or an Ohio State or USC or UCLA. You are going to have a tougher schedule on the perception that you are a historically strong program, and you're going to, you're going to be able to hold your own. And but as far as Penn State not being locked into those games that have haunted them in the past few years, you're going to have some significant USC, UCLA, Wisconsin teams like that on the schedule, or else the Penn State could be a team that slides in to the Big Ten championship when otherwise maybe they wouldn't.
right, right. I got a question for you. I want to go back. And I want to throw a fact check because on the document that I saw, I thought I saw that there were 6 teams that the Big Ten played. Or 10 teams that the Big Ten played. Am I mistaken, or am I looking at a wrong graphic, or what?
I everything I've seen has said they're playing 9 conference games still. That they stayed with that
Because,
schedule.
well, yeah, like in Maryland, I had Maryland playing Indiana, Michigan, Nebraska, and Penn State. That's 4 at home, and on the road, Rutgers, Minnesota, Northwestern, Ohio State, Rutgers, and UCLA. That's 6. 6 and 4 is 10. I don't know. Something we might maybe Megan can check on it while we're doing this. The reason I say that is because if it does get to that, that's going to really have an impact on other, the group of 5 teams in college football want to make money off the big boys. If they only got 2 slots per team. But anyway, maybe Megan can check on that. If my bad, my bad. But I thought I was told that, and I hope someday, if it's not that way, I hope we do get to 10 conference games. And I'm going to tell you why, because we don't have divisions now, right? So I mean, you want to get as much cross section of all the teams, and then you play the conference. You're going to get a true Big Ten championship the more conference teams you play.
Yeah, I hear you. But just confirmed as we're continuing to talk about this, Big Ten teams in 2024 will continue to play 9 league games.
Okay, so maybe it's in 25 they're going to 10. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Regardless. Okay. I wanted to point that out just to make sure. Hey, we're in, we're in real time right now. We're conversing. We're asking each other's questions. So I wanted to get that clarified for myself.
Yep, no problem. Well, on the flip side of that, we've talked about maybe biggest winner in this thing. Who potentially could be the biggest loser in this kind of a setup in your mind?
Well, once again, I kind of got down to the nitty gritty on the schedule. I'm trying to figure out who has the toughest schedule, and I pinpointed that in 24, and then you got Maryland. Here's another team that is trying. I look at these teams that are trying to bridge their way up so they can be a potential candidate to get to Indianapolis. I mean, Indiana, isn't in that category. Maryland's another one that kind of is teetered with that. And I look at their 25 schedule, John. I mean, they got Indiana, at home, they got Indiana, Michigan, Nebraska, Penn State. So they got Michigan and Penn State at home. And then on the road, they got Rutgers, Minnesota, Northwestern, Ohio State, Rutgers. There's a duplication. That's why I had 2 Rutgers. So that's where that whole mistake came on the 6th team. So, but they got to go to UCLA on the road. I'm thinking when you go on the road to the West Coast, that's going to have impact on some of these teams, a travel impact that, everybody says, oh, it's going to affect USC, UCLA, but it's also going to affect the Big Ten teams that travel there, right? And so they got to, that's a long trip, and then they're already into their game week, getting carved into that a little bit. So I'm looking at Maryland maybe a little challenged in 25.
Okay. All right. And I'm gonna throw a little big picture general thought about this whole thing. And that is because, getting back to what I said, the teams that are historically strong, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and your USC's and UCLA's, the Big Ten wants them to have a tough schedule, tougher than, say, a Rutgers or a Purdue. And because of that, if one of these teams, if one of these programs experiences a several year dip, like Michigan did from 2008 through 2014, all of a sudden, the Big Ten's not going to say, "Oh, well, they're no good anymore. We're going to give them an easy schedule," because what's the perception? Well, Michigan is not going away. Ohio State's not going away. USC's not going away. They will continue to have tough schedules. And so, in my mind, you're in a situation where, if you take a little dip for a while, and Michigan has put itself in a position where it shouldn't be worrying about that. But if you do, and every program does from time to time, then all of a sudden you may really be in a disadvantageous position vis-a-vis the some of the middling teams of the Big Ten who are playing an easy schedule. Meanwhile, you're struggling yourself, but you are all of a sudden still playing the big boys every year.
Yeah, and timing is everything in life, right? It's like I'm looking at I voiced my concern about the 22 and 23 schedules in the non-conference. I'm not going to go into that anymore. But in contrast, one of those watch what you wish for, right? Here comes Michigan with UCLA and USC coming on board. You got Ohio State, you got Michigan State, and you got Fresno State as one of your group of 5. Fresno State is one of those teams, man, you cannot take lightly. They bring it. They got a mentality in that program, chip on the shoulder relative to the Pac-12 teams. That's a tough non-conference. And then you got the Texas Longhorns, albeit coming to Ann Arbor. You got that, and then you got potentially I hope that's not the case. JJ McCarthy going out after his third year, and you got an offensive line. Let's be real. You go down through the personnel. There's a lot of guys that are leaving after the 23 campaign. And you think, good Lord, why isn't that schedule of 24 and 23 when you want it to be in 23 as opposed to 24? But so, you can't, timing's everything. There's a lot of luck. You just go be the best you can be and don't worry so much about the schedules, right?
Well, that's true, but I'll tell you what, I've seen years where schedule determines championship. And I think this could be more than ever now that we've opened things up. I mean, you could pretty much count on if you got through the Big Ten East, or you could count on it because ever since they went East and West, the Big Ten East winner has won the Big Ten championship. That's a
Right.
lock. So win your division and you're going to win the championship. But look, you're talking about 2024 schedule and you talk non-conference, but they get into conference. They've
Yeah.
got UCLA at home. They've got Wisconsin at home. They've got Michigan State, an emotional game at home. They have to go to Ohio State. They have to go to USC. That is a crazy tough schedule.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a
Yeah.
darn
I
good thing.
love it.
Darn good thing. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And I think everybody, in terms of, man, let's take on anybody and play the best of the best of the best. But if you wound up in 2024 as the 13th team in a 12-team playoff roster, then people wouldn't like it quite so much.
Well, key point. You use the number 12 or 13. Okay, this is not 4. Okay, so that's the beauty of what next year brings,
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to get in those 12 teams. You won't tell me that strength of schedule issue is going to be popping up all over the place, and you're not going to get, this is where this narrative is just, blitzed upon, especially from SEC. Uh, typical announcers will drill Michigan for these schedules in 22 and 23, and we're going to hear it again this year. But you have to deal with that next year. And when you got a great home slate. You got the Buckeyes on the road, but look what you just mentioned at home. Think
Mm-hmm.
about how awesome that's going to be for the high-paying Michigan football fans that pay big money. They're not going to have to watch East Carolina, UNLV, and BG in the big house on an 85-degree day. Okay, that's a sweet spot, and that's what college football is all about, in my estimation. Is being in a competitive situation where you find out, man, oh, who's the better team. That's the way I feel about it.
I agree. But there's the other, to play devil's advocate, I still contend that a loss will hurt you more than a lopsided win over a weak opponent. And would you rather see Michigan, going toe to toe against a Wisconsin or a UCLA in the big house in late September and really being caught up in the, hey, this is what it's all about?
Yeah.
Or would you rather see them be in a position where they're in the Big Ten championship game, they're in the playoffs, where otherwise they might not be? And
And then
that's,
they go on to the playoff and they get exposed because they haven't been exposed to enough non-conference tough competition early on to find out what their weaknesses are. I mean, this is a way you can look at this. You
yeah,
want to play the fool's gold card, go ahead. But look what's happened. You know what I mean? So that's the way I feel about it, JP.
I understand, but to push back on that last one just a little bit, you're not going to get by easily when you got USC, you've got Ohio State on the road, you've got Wisconsin, I mean, Michigan is playing an absolute murderer's row in 2024, and you could remove a couple of those games, and you would still have an extremely tough schedule and
And
one
it's
a lot
yeah,
of.
it's and once again, my point a few minutes ago, and it's a team that's going to be in a rebuild mode. This is where Michigan has to challenge itself of getting to the Georgia Alabama level. Is that you do, in fact, the old cliche, you don't rebuild, you reload, where you have such high caliber talent, and they're doing this. 24 class is outstanding. The 25 class, I know it's early on, that's going to be
Fabulous.
solid as we're sitting. If
Yep.
you get top 5 to 10 every year, then you're in the Georgia-esque situation where yeah, you're going to lose a lot of guys, but plug and play, and then you can tackle those daunting schedules. But regardless if they plug all those places with high caliber athletes, I'm not denying it, JB. That schedule, as much as I'm going to enjoy sitting down there in Ann Arbor watching that competition, that's a tough slate. I'm not denying that.
There's no question about it. Now, here's a quirk of this whole situation that you have to think about, and it gives me very mixed feelings. If you had a year where you played the game, Michigan, Ohio State, and you played it not once, not twice, but 3 times. You played a game where these two teams square off at the end of the year, and then still were the best two teams, regardless of someone absorbing a loss. They play in the conference championship game. Maybe the team that didn't win the last week wins, and you've got these two teams in the playoffs. You could see them play 3 times. I know that's not an extremely likely situation, but these two teams have got it on a roll. They are loaded, and they are
Right.
2 of the top 5 teams in the country going into this season. So it's not unthinkable that could happen.
Yeah. Well, it could happen last year easily, as far as twice.
Right.
In the span. This is where this goes with the territory of going 12-team playoff. Then you're becoming the NFL. Like when you're playing teams. In the NFL, you're playing teams. Twice in the regular season. If they're a division opponent, then you got them you could have them in the wild card playoff, whatever. I mean, this is the way it is. I mean, college basketball. I mean, remember in 2019, I mean, Michigan State played. They played a few times, or they played 3 times. I mean, that's just kind of the way it is. I know
Yeah.
football's different. I understand that, but
Very,
I don't have a problem with it because what if you lose that game, that Michigan Ohio State game? You got another shot at them. And I'll tell you what, if Michigan Ohio State are that good, which I think they are, that they can play that many times. I mean, it's just going to amp the rivalry up, and I don't personally have a problem with it. I'm not all twisted up in this thing, where the sacred Michigan Ohio State game got to end it there. No, I'm good to go with let them play. That's just the way I am in terms of that particular issue.
fair enough. And like I said, I've got some mixed feelings about it. Let me just dial it back 1 year. Would you have felt good about and thought it was justified if Ohio State would have had another shot at Michigan last year?
I mean, I wouldn't have had a problem with it because I looked at when I look at Michigan's opponent or perceived opponents. I look at I guess I look at it too. X's and O's, Jimmy's, Joe's. That team. That team, I think we could. Michigan could beat them. I mean, I look at the matchups. I'd rather have Michigan play Ohio State than Georgia. I want Michigan. When I look at how this plays out, and I'm not going to do it payback or revenge. It's what team gives Michigan the best chance to defeat them and then move on in the quote unquote tournament. And so I'll double down again. I would not have had a problem with it at all.
All right. Well, that's a great one to debate because
yes, it is.
I can guarantee you there were some Michigan fans who
Oh,
were
absolutely.
absolutely apoplectic that
Freaking out.
after Michigan goes into Columbus and takes that stadium over in the 4th quarter, just convincingly beats the Buckeyes. Then all of a sudden, are you kidding me? They sneak into the playoff. They're going to have a chance to maybe win a national championship game against Michigan. And I get it. I would have felt good about the matchup too, but there's that certain, hey, wait a minute. Michigan proved its point. Then again, if Michigan went 3-0 against the Buckeyes in a single year, that'd be something.
Yeah, no, you make a really good point. And I'm not saying that wasn't in the back of my mind as we were it was a moot point after Michigan dropped it to TCU. It's like I just checked out emotionally of life for a second, and didn't watch much of that Ohio State Georgia game. Quite frankly, I mean that whole element. Oh, who do they want to play? Blah blah blah. It was
Right.
a moot point, right? So you deal with these things when you encounter them. But I think Michigan could have beat them twice, and if I think they could. Who cares? Just get in position. Put yourself into position to win national championships, like a national championship, the first, undisputed national championship, no .5 national championship, no mythical national championship. That would be the first ever in Michigan football. I mean, that would be great, and I think it's going to happen in 2023. I've said that before, and I'm saying it again.
All right. More than likely, for that to happen, Michigan will have to take down Ohio State in Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
Or if they didn't, they'd have to have the same kind of season leading up to there, where the playoff folks said, "All right, we're gonna have two Big Ten teams in there and let them in." But my question to you is: we're talking about this new world coming in 2024. How do you think Michigan has positioned itself to not just survive, but to really thrive in the whole brave new world that is college football and the Big Ten? We certainly know that they have had their breakthrough this last 2 years, beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten championship, go to the playoff. And we just touched on the recruiting. It certainly looks like they have put themselves in about as good a position as possible to enter into all this and really enter into it flying. We heard Jim Harbaugh on video this week saying our opponents, they're not sitting back and saying, hey, let's not improve because we're good enough. And he has got this team focused on getting better and better and better.
Um, I can't say enough about what the good things that are happening now, that Michigan football program that I'm following on a daily basis. And it goes beyond, oh, their recruiting's going good. They're crystal ball for blah, 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 blah. The 24, 25 kids coming in. They got a transfer portal kid from UMass. Oh my God, that issue at the other corner is done. Blah, blah. I mean, all these things are all wonderful things. But one of the things that I'm really appreciating more is, college football is now a business. I mean, duh. I mean, it's like money, follow the money. It's TV monies. This is why USC and UCLA are coming on board. It's the NIL. And what is Michigan doing lately, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
seeing, like last night, and this has to do with this Empower, all these efforts of donor power to fulfill those needs in the NIL, to compete with the other big boys who are saying getting $400,000, $500,000 NIL athletes, at that price tag. It's really becoming the NFL. And where's Michigan? We all heard about 70,000, but now it's moving up a little bit. And Jim Harbaugh goes to Chicago yesterday or last night, right, for an event. And what is he doing? He's treating it like, this is the way you should, like a for-profit company. You're building equity in your company with your stockholders and things. He's going out and talking, and the word that he's delivering is a wonderful word, right? Of prosperity, and they're all excited about it. And the University of Michigan has a lot of equity providers. I've talked about this before. They got some illustrious alumni. Just in my little fraternity group, I got some guys that make some big dollars, man. Blows me out of the water, but they still like me. There's a lot of illustrious Michigan alumni. And I think I like the approach that they're taking, where they're realizing these are the new rules. And if we're going to get these high caliber athletes so we can compete every year, we're going to have to get those NIL monies up there. And however they're going to do that, where they can assure that, they're going to have alumni that are going to, the sponsorships when they're playing, and then obviously when they're done playing, get jobs like we always talked about in the past. Michigan's got to leverage your resources, leverage your strengths, illustrious alumni, just like stockholders in a company. That's what Jim Harbaugh is doing. I love what Harbaugh is doing. I love the fact they went up to Traverse City and took 5 of their stud athletes and they're schmoozing with people up there. This is what you got to do. You got to you got to go out and embrace your public, if you will, during these wonderful times and get more money for the NIL. That's just the way it is.
Hey, and Jim Harbaugh has put himself in a better position to do all that by knocking off the Buckeyes the last 2 years and winning
exactly.
the Big Ten. There's no question about it. Super producer Megan has put the Harbaugh quote up there, the famous quote that we've seen in the last couple of days about we don't want our athletes eating the ramen noodles. And our colleague Anthony Brooms came back and said, "Now wait a minute, don't knock ramen noodles."
Hey, I hear you. I'm a pasta guy too. Yeah.
But his point is, we need to compete away from the field as well as on the field. And so he's pitching it like we know that Michigan fans that are in position to help want to see Michigan do well. Well, this is what it's going to take. And they're talking about more than just giving to collectives and more than just coming across with money donations. You're talking about internships and opportunities with these businesses that can set somebody up for life, whether they are playing football on a pro football field or not. And I think that there's something to that. That is in line with what you're talking about. Michigan wants to be all about anyway, but it's also something that you can actually talk to these kids and say, hey, yeah, you're going to get some money, but you also will have opportunities and connections that you're making that are going to go beyond us handing you a wad of bills.
Yeah, because, let's be real. I mean, even though Michigan has developed even, kind of 3-star guys and sent 3-star guys in the NFL over the years. And they're, the number of guys that got drafted last year, and then they're projecting there could be 15 or 16 guys drafted in the NFL this year. I mean, it's still in the bottom line, the percentage relative to the guys that just got to go back and, take their degree from the great University of Michigan and go get a regular job. I mean, when you have those, those alumni out there and you've done internships, I mean, that's so awesome. And the other thing, what I like about Michigan is they're promoting all their resources, and once again, all those strengths. I mean, the University of Michigan health system is one of the best in the entire country. And now I see John Wangler right there, our friend, and he was talking, as a former player, he's telling about what great things they can do for them down the road. But the U Hospital is right there. All these, clean up injuries and surgeries that they have that a lot of players have had in the off season. I mean, Michigan is really embracing all that good stuff, I think, and you got to flaunt it. You got to tell the story. You got to tell the Michigan story and what it will do for you to come to the University of Michigan, in contrast to going to South Carolina, which has no tradition, but they got a bunch of people want to give you a lot of money,
right?
And so you gotta leverage your strengths.
You need it all. You need the winning side of it, which Michigan has checked that box certainly over the last couple of years. You need the funds. Look, if a kid has a chance to a top player take in a couple $1 million or $1 million as opposed to 70,000, and we've talked about that on this show. It's for a college young man, or in some cases a young lady. That's not a hard decision, even with all those other things you talked about. Mm-hmm. But you also have to have what Michigan has in abundance, and it's that overall program with the academics, with the connections, with the internships, with everything that goes along with it. And I think Jim Harbaugh believes in that, and he's in a great position to sell it. You mentioned Chicago. He's going on several stops around the country.
That's what you do. Yeah.
And it's exactly what this program needs right now to capitalize on not only the NIL opportunity, but the fact that people are again looking at this as, wow, Michigan is once again one of the powerhouses in this country in football.
Yeah, and it's no days off. I mean, and it's little stuff, the track, taking the team on the trip, going where'd they go to New York, and Washington D.C. I mean, that's part of the story to tell the parents. A lot of these kids haven't been exposed to that stuff. Going to the NFL Hall of Fame in Canton. I mean, stuff that you're doing and not necessarily other people are doing, and I can't commend him, and winning helps. Like, yeah, when you're winning, you got alumni all over you. You got people. I got Michigan friends that all they're talking about is Michigan football. It's like they're counting the days till we get to August. When the camp opens August 1st, and then we're going to be hearing narrative about how who's doing. How's the two deeps look, and then you get into the season starting on Labor Day weekend. Exciting stuff. So keep doing what you're doing, Michigan football. You got it cooking, as I say.
The more times you beat the Buckeyes, the more friends you have.
Isn't that amazing how that works?
It is amazing. And speaking of beating the Buckeyes, we would be remiss if we let this segment go without at least one projection on what's coming up in the 2023 season. And my question for you, Tom Crawford, is simply this: will Michigan and Ohio State meet up in Ann Arbor next November as two teams come into that game undefeated? And if not, why not?
Well, I'm always hesitant. We're sitting here on June 13th. I mean, where I show my cards, show my hand, if you will, that of how I see the season going, right? And I kind of did that when I said, there's likelihood that there could be a three-way tie with one loss, blah blah blah, when you get into week 12. Okay,
Yep.
So that Penn State game, sitting there. I mean, that's the one. The Penn State Michigan game. Michigan is a team that's vulnerable to as far as having one loss versus Ohio State. I think Ohio State with Penn State at home is going to have the undefeated season when they come to Ann Arbor. So that's that more. So it could be. So as I'm sitting right now, and I'm not going to officially declare my the 12 game regular season slate till we get past Big Ten media days and 2 days and all that stuff. Okay, but as I sit right now, I think 12-0 versus 11-1, and it doesn't matter. Michigan wins, or absolutely actually 11-0 versus 10-1, and then Michigan wins the game and they're 11-1, and Ohio State is 11-1, and Michigan goes on to the Big Ten championship game in Indy. Okay, the last time of this format, but that's the way I see it. But who knows? They both could be undefeated easily, and I might tweak that projection as we get closer to the start of the season.
All right. Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and tick off all my Penn State friends, and I have several, by saying that I think that these two teams will go into that game undefeated.
Wow.
Penn State loses at Columbus, and Michigan goes into State College and wins and runs the rest of the schedule leading up to that Ohio State game. I'm just I think they're in a great position to really make this happen. We know that they can lose a game. We know it. We've seen it in some of the best Michigan seasons ever, where you have that game, maybe that in the middle of October, and you're on the road and things just don't go your way, or you have an injury or whatever it is, and you lose a game. But I'm gonna throw it out there right now. I think these teams go into that game undefeated, and man, would Michigan Stadium be rocking?
Oh my God, it would be incredible. And so I want to follow up on that, JB. So would the loser of that game have a sure bet CFP bid? in your opinion?
Sure bet. I would say no, because you just don't know what everybody else around the country is going to do.
There's
Uh,
only 4 teams. Yeah.
but I would say, yeah, I mean, certainly if this was another year down the road and it was a 12-team playoff,
Oh,
there's no
slam
question.
dunk. Yeah.
But with 4, you have to look at what other people do. I would say, though, if they go into that game both undefeated, I would fully expect both of those teams to make the playoff, unless it was an absolute whitewash along, 41-10 or some such thing. So yeah, I would think so. I would absolutely think so. Well, we're down late in the fourth quarter. We are got to wrap this thing up, but I want to know what Tom Crawford's thinking about these days. What's Tom's take on this podcast ender?
Well, I want to, in these in the Wolverine lives, timing's everything, right? In the podcasting industry, what do we want to call it? Broadcasting industry. So right after, right after I said, no, Michigan's not going to get Olivier Kamwa from Tennessee. Look, they offered that. They offer, it's going to be terrible. The next day the thing flips back, and Olivier's coming to Michigan. So kudos. I want to give kudos to Juwan Howard. The guy has been scrambling the South, to get to this 13 scholarship thing. I think he's 2 away from this. They got a couple guys still out there. The Kentucky kid, and I heard about Mulcahy out of Rutgers might even be a possibility. But he got Kamwa out of Tennessee, so kudos to him. And Seton Hall's Trey Jackson is definitely he's on board. He's on campus. So just get basketball. Just get it so that they're in the hunt for an NCAA bid. I don't want Michigan to go over, back-to-back years of no NCAA tournament. But filling these last couple slots are so critical. And so I want to commend Juwan Howard for that. And then also when you were talking, let's go back to that situation with NIL monies, for football and the Empower and all that stuff that Harbaugh is talking about. I'm a Michigan football and Michigan basketball guy, literally equally, and I want Michigan basketball to be relevant and up there with, and I'm not hearing about, I want to hear about, what they're doing to sell that brand, to build a NIL equity. And I don't know how that plays out. I don't know what decision makers are on that, but I want NIL money coming to basketball so that there's no, it's not like we're just going to, gut out basketball season waiting for spring football. I just don't want that.
No, you don't. And there's no reason for it. I mean, it's not like Michigan has no history in basketball. Michigan in every decade has had very, very good teams and NCAA tournament teams, some that have made long runs. You had the national championship in '89, and it's just one of those things where Michigan has the wherewithal to be an NCAA tournament team almost every year. And you slipped away. It slipped away last year. I think there were some things about that team, that group of guys that just didn't quite connect, didn't quite mesh, they had injuries at times. But I'm looking for a much better overall mix this year, and they're going to have it. But it's got to, these days it's got to come together, because you're pulling parts from different parts of the country to plug in and all of a sudden become this unified group come at least late December, early January.
Yeah. I get that. We got so consumed on Wolverine Live tonight, and it's my fault. I went off on these tangents and everything. I mean, JB, we got to talk about the great people at Lewis Jewelers, don't we, for a second here before we end?
You are absolutely right.
I'm your wingman.
You
you're about ready to turn it over, and I saved you. So there you go.
There is no question about that.
Thanks, Megan.
We would not be where we are if it weren't for our fine friends at Lewis Jewelers. And we we do want to take that moment to give a shout out to the sponsor of our Tuesday night recruiting show and a longtime partner of the Wolverine in Lewis Jewelers. And we end with this simple question, guys. Is your daughter's engagement ring bigger than your wife's? If the answer is yes, great news. Lewis Jewelers can help. It's stress-free and easy working with one of their non-commissioned expert, trusted advisors, finding that perfect diamond. So stop by today, guys, and fix this family issue. Lewis Jewelers, your diamond store, and so much more since 1921. Visit them at their new location, 300 South Maple Road, Ann Arbor, or online at lewisjewelers.com. That's LEWISJEWELERS.com. That's Lewis Jewelers, where Ann Arbor gets engaged. And we are now going to disengage from this Wolverine Live, but we've touched all the bases, including the folks that help us to bring it to you. I mean, it's like, Jim Harbaugh has to take care of those who might contribute and boost his program. We certainly thank Lewis Jewelers for doing
on that topic of jewelry, and rings and stuff like this. I think there's going to be a national championship ring. 110, 120 kids, however, in that program are going to be fitted, if you know what I mean.
Wow.
After Houston, Texas happens, in early January. That's what I'm saying right now. That's my declaration as I'm sitting right now. I'm feeling it. And so the 24 season, all that stuff I talked about, hey, not worried about it. Win a national title in 23 and 24 is just, hey, it's icing on the cake, right? Whatever happens.
You'll take your chances in 24 if you get done in 23. No doubt. Tom Crawford, always great to kick it around with Michigan football, Michigan basketball. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
All right.